Welcome to the Regulation Podcast, brought to you by the Institute of Regulation. Once again, we hope this podcast will help you understand what regulation is all about, what it's all for, and of course, why it matters to the public. My name is Anthony Oliver, and I'm going to lead today's discussion as we focus today on the emerging digital and technology challenges facing regulation. Now, digital technologies sit at the heart of every industry, business and organisation today, and data is without question a vital lever to drive efficiency and prompt change. And we're seeing a radical shift in thinking and a huge growth in investment as we embrace the power of data and new technologies such as artificial intelligence. And regulation is, of course, central to this transformation. Not only are we seeing the rise in so-called regtech, but regulators are also racing to understand and to keep up with the consequences of change. And it's a subject being delved into regularly by the Institute of Regulation's Special Interest Group on Digital and Technology. So to find out more, let me introduce my guest today, Mark Sutton, Chief Digital and Data Officer at the Quality Care Commission, who leads this group. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining me on the Regulation Podcast today.
Hello, Anthony. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, Mark, as I explained, you're leading the IOR's Digital and Technology Special Interest Group. But I tried to set the scene. Did I capture this correctly about the challenges? I mean, how do you see these challenges and opportunities emerging from our use of data and digital technologies?
Yes, absolutely leading this group, Anthony. Thank you. And it's more of I'd say, an opportunity for like-minded individuals in this sphere to come together and share experiences and share challenges and share some of the successes that we've had in this field as well. It's a really interesting area. I would say there's probably not a more exciting time to be involved in regulation, because there are so many opportunities, and it is a really challenging environment, because obviously we're all public bodies, we're all representing the people that we serve, and we're making the best of the public monies that are made available to us. And in doing so, I think where technology and data and insight advances present us the opportunity of doing more with less. And I think there's an expectation, though, therefore, that we do more with less, and we take advantage of that, of the opportunities that are available to us to do that, consistently improving our services whilst reducing the cost of those services as well.
Well, I talked about challenges and opportunities. I mean, are there some specific issues that face regulators right now when it comes to digital and technology change?
I think as I talk with my peers and colleagues from different areas, there are a number of themes that are quite consistent among us. Recognizing again the use of public money here, we're always having to justify the use of public money for our investments in technology, and we're obviously competing against other internal needs for that money, and of course there's always more opportunity here than there is investment. So one of the key challenges that we all have is making the case for investment. And that case is definitely there, but it is challenging where, and I think this applies both to us, but also the industries that we regulate, that whilst technology presents an opportunity, typically technology becomes the thing that becomes sort of, it is an opportunity to cut when times are hard.
Right. Yeah.
So invariably in a lot of organisations, and this is not just in regulation, but you find this in other areas as well, that you're having to overcome some of the technical debt that's arisen through previous challenges to investment. So you're not only seeing that opportunity to get to a new place where there is the efficiencies that could be generated and the improving in services that could be generated, but you've got to overcome some of that previous challenge to investment in the past, and that could be difficult to justify, because you've got to get to sort of a level of platform before you can move forward.
It's a long-term process, I suppose, investing in new technologies. It's a long-term and it's an expensive process, to get to the benefits of the end.
Yeah, and some of that's invisible, right? And I think, if we think about, and we are all doing this. We are all getting to a place where we're starting to secure investment to do various improvements and getting the benefits of those improvements. But you do find that there are certain things that are hygiene factors that you have to overcome, particularly in areas like cybersecurity, where we have to make investment. It doesn't necessarily have an overarching benefit that's visible to your end users, but you've got to do it because it's the thing that keeps you safe and ensures that you can actually make those advancements.
Well, let's talk about, your day job is Digital and Data Officer at the Quality Care Commission, the independent regulator for health and social care in England. That involves collecting a lot of data. How do you describe your current role in regulation?
So the Care Quality Commission is at a really interesting point in its development. So we've had, as an organisation, and it's our role to ensure the quality, consistency and safety of services that are out there in health and social care. There's some 50,000 providers in England alone in that area, covering all kinds of services from hospitals through to GPs and then adult social care services. And we need to assure the public that use those services that those are an effective level of quality and of safety. And if it doesn't meet those services, those requirements, then we take appropriate action. But we're our primary aim is to ensure improvement and that we encourage providers to improve. So in our history to date, it's all been about trying to encourage that improvement and to make sure that with limited resources that we can get around all of the providers to be able to give that level of assurance. But the core challenge for us, of course, is that you can never have enough people to be able to do that at the frequency that you really want to. That's a real challenge that all regulators face. And this is where one of those opportunities really rises to the front in terms of, what of the kind of core set of hygiene activities that you are providing assurance around can we automate? How do we gather that information in ways that can save time for providers, reduce the burden on them, save time on us, and enable us to use the scarce resources that we have to focus on risk and focus on areas of outstanding care. That's the really exciting opportunity, I think, for us.
Yeah, but I suppose you're constantly balancing that kind of boosting efficiency with absolutely maintaining it. The point you made earlier about security and safety of all that data.
Yes. I think data is at the core of that strategy of becoming a smarter regulator. So we have got an appetite to consume more data, and it's not just the quantity of data; it's data of the right quality and the right timeliness that enables us to be able to remove a lot of that grunt work from the work that we do to save ourselves time and save the providers time. So, for example, we don't want to be going around and checking all the fire safety certificates. We want to automate that process and only look at that by exception. And really use our scarce resources to actually look at those exception cases.
Because when you talk about 50,000 different organisations, you gather a huge amount of data at the CQC. I think it's gathered nationally by other organisations. Patient survey data. You've got information from the NHS. You've got patient opinion feedback. You've got NHS friends and family tests. The list goes on in terms of the data you collect. So for you, are the challenges simply around making sure that that's all in order, or is it about analysing all that? Where are the big challenges? Is it hanging on to it or actually delving into it?
So one of the primary challenges for us as an organisation has been acquiring that information, getting it into a centralised state that we can efficiently manage the quality of that information and generate insight that's relevant. Yeah. And we've just, as an organisation, we've just implemented quite a significant improvement in our capabilities. We've created what we refer to as an enterprise data platform.
Yeah, that's about extracting value. That's about extracting value from the data, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we're now in a situation where we can extract more value from that data that we hold, generate more insights, and those insights are lots of different levels. So the insights are pointing our scarce resources at the areas where they're needed most. They're about making most efficient use of our analyst time. They're about ensuring that we can look at the patterns in data across the places and the systems that we regulate, so that we can not just look at individual providers and say, we're assessing you against other providers and at our standards of quality. We're also looking for patterns across different areas, so that we can be strategic. I mean, we have a state of care publication that we publish every year, and that is very much informed by the data and the analysis that we provide. And it comes out with some really insightful information, like one of the major themes of our state of care, which has just been published recently, is around inequalities in healthcare.
Right. Yeah.
And that we're only able to say that because the data gives us the evidence that backs up those assertions.
Yeah, so collecting data is not just sufficient. You've actually got to be able to use that data. And presumably it cuts across many other sectors, which is why you've got the special interest group. Tell us about that. What is this special interest group? What's its ambition? What's its likely output? What are you trying to achieve? And where have you got to so far? Yeah,
well, we're in our early days. But I'd say what this is, it could be a lonely place actually, sitting there working on your strategy for regulation technology. And we're all doing very similar things in different industries, but there's so much commonality between us. So it's a coming together of like minds. We're sharing those opportunities, sharing great things that we've done, and I think there's a great opportunity for us in the future to really help each other. And we're all essentially government bodies who all have the same aim about essentially ensuring that services provided are safe and that they're of high quality.
Well, there's two areas I think you're looking at. You're looking at the roles and pitfalls of artificial intelligence and the emergence of regtech. We'll talk a bit more about that. What exactly regtech is. Let's talk about artificial intelligence to start with. In the short time since these generative AI tools such as ChatGPT have become mainstream, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that it's got the power to really transform the way we work and live and play. How would you say it's impacting the role of and activities of regulators?
It's absolutely fascinating subject, particularly in the world of health and social care. You can see it's obvious that the growing demand for health and social care cannot be met by people alone. So we've got to take advantage of these technologies. But it's got to be done in a way that's safe and fair, without bias, and that we can actually evidence we understand how it works. So there is, we want to be, as I'm sure other regulators do, we want to be that regulator that is supportive of innovation. And it's not just in AI, there's so many incredible innovations going on at the moment. If I was at the Care Show recently, which was just full of wonderful ways in which technology is being used to help people, whether they're in a care home or whether they're in domiciliary care, technology really empowering people to lead more independent lives, to have a monitoring of so that you can make sure that care is with them when they need it. And in some cases, the use of artificial intelligence to help, for example, predict where people's conditions should be according to the normal pattern, and therefore you deviate from that pattern, and then that it enables you to focus your care there. So we as regulators absolutely have to be supporting that innovation, but supporting that innovation in a way that we've presents a problem for us. We have to now make sure that it's implemented in a way that's safe and fair and without bias.
Yeah. And doesn't compromise the public services that you're providing. Can you give us an example of kind of the thing that you're just currently discussing in the SIG around that?
An example of an application of this.
Yes. Yeah.
So, a wonderful example for my industry is an organization that's pioneering this artificial intelligence that is about spotting pain in service users of care providers who are non-verbal. So one of the real challenges that you have with providing care for people that are non-verbal is clearly that they can't explain to you with a scenario. In some cases, we know that people are experiencing pain, but they can't express it, and they become aggressive, and therefore they become difficult to manage. This app is an AI app that records body language and facial expressions, and it can pretty accurately determine when people are in pain.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely transformative because it enables providers to give a really appropriate response, and it's better, so much better for the individual who can actually have appropriate pain management when they can't express that they've got that pain.
A fascinating example. And I'd say the extent to the ways that AI can actually help are kind of we haven't thought through all of those quite yet. I imagine there's an awful lot more to come out of that. Let's talk about regtech.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
What is regtech? What is that? How do you describe regtech?
Well, let me give you my perspective on it, but I guess it's a growing and evolving world, right? And what's interesting for me about the world of regtech is that essentially we're talking about how do we bring a sort of consistent set of technology and data and insight capabilities to allow regulators to do their role in a much more efficient way, and to be able to accelerate their development and use of that technology. But we all have pretty consistent ways, and we need to gather data, we need to interact with providers, we need to provide digital services to providers, we need to be able to interact with the public to get feedback from them. Mm-hmm. We need to bring all that information together in ways that allow us to carry out assessments of the industry that we're regulating. So there's a pretty consistent framework there of the different types of services and activities that we provide. And of course, using technology to enable us to make that more efficient, make that more digitized. I mean, we're an industry that's grown from very methodical, thoughtful, auditory type activities, which have previously all been paper based, and then you migrate to a bunch of Excel spreadsheets that you used to manage these things. And I don't think we've yet got to that point where we're investing in the latest technology that can enable regulators to really perform. So
is it skills? Is it culture? Is it technology that you need to accelerate, or all three?
Well, that's a good point, actually. So, interestingly, I would say, I should never say this, but the technology part of it is the relatively straightforward part of it.
Right. Yeah.
What we need to do is enable the cultural changes within regulators and with the whole ecosystem. So providers and service users. We've got to make that cultural change, because we are coming from, as other industries have evolved from, the use of very sort of linear paper-based thought processes, checklists, etc. We've got to get to a position now where we're thinking about ourselves much more as consumers of data and intelligence information. We are curators of data, and that's the way that we are able to add our knowledge and professional judgments into this body of organizational knowledge. But that's a step change in the thought process, because the fear factor is there, isn't it? The fear factor is, well, the robots are coming to take my job, and I get that fear, but it's not about that. And that's part of my job is to help my colleagues understand that this is about empowering you as someone with enormous clinical or healthcare experience. It's not about taking anything away from you. It's about adding to you and empowering you in your role.
Because I imagine privacy, as I said before, privacy, security of data is constantly cited as a key issue, and it clearly sits at the heart of the general data protection regulations. And I mean, is that in any way under threat from new technologies such as AI?
So I think that's another one of the fear factors, right? I think that people are afraid And what I'd like people to do is to turn that fear into action. So I think if you should be ensuring that you fully understand your responsibilities. Every individual has a responsibility about safe use of information, safe storage and safe management, and safe dissemination of information. But we've got all the tools to be able to manage that in a careful and constructive way. It should not prevent us from sharing information. One of the things I see in health and social care is we've not yet got to a position where across, you consuming a service, any one of us as individuals I don't consume a hospital service. I'm a person. I have a breadth of services that I consume from a GP, and then I'll go to a hospital and then back again. I'll see a pharmacist, and we need to be thinking about how we look at the holistic interactions between lots of different providers. And we can only do that if we share data. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
And part of the fear factor here, I think, is holding us back as a country. Many other countries have cracked this, where they have consistent single patient records, where they have the ability to have effective sharing amongst government departments, so that you've got a secure environment. You share all that information once across different industries. And we're not there yet, and that's a real barrier.
Yeah, no, I suppose the days of you still see these huge amounts of paper records which are floating around doctors' surgeries, etc. So we have to move on from that. The issue of regulation. I mean, how do you see the IR really helping with the issues around data and technology?
Well, I think certainly the Institute of Regulation itself, in terms of it, is a bringing together of the specialists in this industry, and the special interest groups, I think, are enormously helpful. I could see in the future us being able to support each other with best practice guidelines of how to achieve certain things. I could see us developing standards. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to share methodology and share experiences. The culture thing you raised, I think, is such a critical one that we all have to try and overcome. How do we win the hearts and minds of colleagues to really embrace the opportunities and to moderate that fear factor around adopting technology or sharing data?
Well, let's talk a bit about you, Mark, because your background's in IT management. You've worked in financial services, insurance, retail, healthcare, not-for-profit organisations. How do you end up in regulation then?
I'm personally a career IT geek, and I love technology in all its different forms. And I've had the real blessing of being able to work in lots of different industries. And I have typically at each career move gone to where I'm really, really interested in, and increasingly I've been lucky enough to work in areas where there's a really wonderful purpose. And my last role was at Teach First. Teach First is an educational charity.
That's right, yeah.
Which is just a really, there's a whole book on this actually that the founder wrote, which I would encourage everybody to read, which is it's a really beautiful, purposeful organisation that helps put teachers in places where they're needed most, and it's a really wonderful purpose-led organisation. And the CQC is equally, is full of wonderful values-driven colleagues who all care passionately about ensuring that services for all of us are safe and that they're high quality. And I hope to continue that journey.
That's what drives you. That's what you find attractive about regulation. It's that public service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful public service, and you work in an environment that has lots of people who have a similar aim. So it's a pleasure coming to work.
Yeah, and anyone can work in regulation, can they? Well,
I think I'm the proof of that. So I came from a professional background in technology, and I didn't have any previous experience of regulation. But
right,
I think our in various different industries, you'll find that there is the need for our specialist colleagues. So the CQC, for example, is full of deeply experienced colleagues across the health and social care landscape.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit more about what you actually do at CQC and really understand that regulation, data and technology challenge. I mean, you at the CQC offer a huge amount of data and widgets, for example, that the organisation can use, or organisations can use in their improvement journey. I mean, would you say that the CQC is quite advanced when it comes to the use of digital systems and data?
I think we're getting there. I think, we're about to launch. In fact, we had a significant release that went live over the weekend. A set of new digital services for providers to be able to interact with us in a way that serves them a lot better and allows us to have more quality information coming into the organisation. So I think we're on a journey. I think if you came back to me in a year's time, I'd say, I think we're in a really interesting place here where we can help other regulators as well in terms of explaining some of the challenges and some of the successes that we've had on our journey.
Well, do you think there's that desire to improve the way data is used? Do you think that's common to other regulators in different sectors?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think everyone is seeing the opportunities that data insight presents them in being able to manage their work, because we're all in the business of managing risk, and risk management is all about assessing large quantities of information and being able to derive meaning from that. Yeah.
Is that about actually helping internally your organisation work better, or is it about what's happening externally more? I mean, where do you see your focus when it comes to the use of data?
Well, very much both. As you probably expect me to say, the power of data for us internally is about enabling us to focus our scarce resources in the right place. It's about empowering our people to have access to real-time information that enables them to be have that information at their fingertips. I think, but externally, this can be incredibly powerful. So, for example, one of the things that our provider community that we engage with are really excited about the changes that we're making, because A, it enables them to have better digital services, but B, it enables them to get an insight into a more transparent understanding about how do we generate our ratings for providers.
Yeah.
And the service that we will be able to offer once we're operating in our new way means that we will have the ability for providers to benchmark themselves against their peers. And that's really fascinating, both for us and for providers. And that's all about the improvement journey that we're really interested in. So if a provider can say, well, there's this particular aspect there that you rated me poorly on, I can see that there's another provider nearby me that's doing really well on that. I'm going to go and speak to them and find out, how do I improve my services to be as good as theirs is.
Yeah, so it's notwithstanding the fact that not everybody is like you and is a digital geek, as a self-confessed digital geek. I mean, do you think that with all this new technology and all this new capability, it's quite daunting? Do you think it makes regulation a more challenging or a more exciting place to be right now?
My view is actually regulators are probably a little bit behind the curves in terms of the expectation, because everyone is consuming all these services from other providers that are just, if you're consuming services from your billion-dollar Amazons and Googles, etc., you're getting access to these incredible, rich experiences. You don't realize how much has gone into them behind the scenes, and then you come to your regulator or other organizations that have to ration their resources, and you have an expectation that they're going to get a similar service from them, which is a little bit unfair. But actually, we can piggyback and leapfrog on some of those large scale investments that are going on to be able to deliver similar services to providers.
Which presumably is what the special interest group is all about, to try to share that expertise, to try to pool that knowledge so that you're not reinventing the wheel at every single step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So looking at the future, you talked a bit about the ambitions for this special interest group. How can people get involved? Do you want people to get involved? Are you full? Are you looking for more members?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The more the merrier. We have. We'd really encourage colleagues to join the Institute of Regulation. If you're not a regulation, you're not already part of the Institute of Regulation, and please, everybody is welcome. We have a thriving group here And please come and join us. We have both virtual and in-person events that we have throughout the year, which we come together to share information and to network. Which networking is obviously a hugely valuable part of the service as well.
Great stuff. Well, Mark, thanks so much for joining me today on the Regulation Podcast and for explaining what it's all about on the Special Interest Group. Much to do, but I think we've made a start in unpacking the work facing you right now in the Special Interest Group. So thanks very much for sharing it.
Thanks so much for having me, Anthony.
Great. Well, I'm sure that we will be hearing more from you, Mark, and from the Special Interest Group in future podcasts very soon. But in the meantime, thanks very much for joining me today. That's all we've got time for. We have, though, got more regulation podcasts planned and more guests to talk to as we continue to get stuck into some of the really big issues faced across the sector. If you haven't done so already, do check out the IOR website. That's www.ioregulation.org, where you'll find a really huge amount of information about the Institute, how you can get involved, and, of course, about the issues and challenges facing regulation. And of course, you'll find details of all the latest podcasts which you can listen to and share. So thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Mark, and on behalf of the Institute of Regulation, I look forward to seeing you again very soon.